Jeremy Clarkson is, right now, trapped in a bureaucratic countdown for something he shouldn't have to ask for twice. He is fighting for a basic gravel car park on his own soil. A simple patch of ground needed to stop thousands of visiting vehicles from gridlocking a narrow country road. Yet, the paper trail behind this single application exposes the exact metric of regulatory warfare a modern farmer must survive. The critical text buried inside Clarkson's new submission reveals the hidden catalyst behind this urgency. Season 6 of his documentary has just been greenlit and will hit screens in the summer of 2027. His legal team explicitly requested a 3-year window to monitor operations after that broadcast closes. This is not a celebrity attempting to slip a permanent development past the gatekeepers. It is a working business aligning its infrastructure with a massive, pre-scheduled surge in public attention. But to understand why a few yards of gravel require a legal army, look closer at the soil beneath it. Diddley Squat Farm sits directly within the Cotswolds area of outstanding natural beauty. That specific designation inflicts tighter, more suffocating development restrictions on Clarkson's land than almost any other agricultural property in the country. Every wooden fence post, every handful of crushed stone, and every single vehicle space must clear a hurdle designed for national parks. Anyone who has ever tried to deal with local planning departments knows this specific nightmare. The system is structurally designed to say no before it even reads the paperwork. The hostility exploded into view back in 2021. Clarkson originally filed for planning permission to open a farm-to-table restaurant right next to his shop. The local council rejected it instantly. Where most independent business owners would have run out of capital and walked away, a legal mechanism built specifically to help struggling landowners repurpose old, disused agricultural buildings without council interference. He broke no laws, hid nothing, and filed the paperwork openly. The council responded with immediate, overwhelming force. Just 12 days after opening night, they hit the farm with a sweeping enforcement notice. The restaurant was choked out of existence and forced to lock its doors within 4 weeks. The true cost of that shutdown was devastatingly human. Clarkson, the son of a Doncaster toy salesman who sank his life savings into this land, faced a sudden, brutal collapse of his entire farming ecosystem. He was forced to immediately sell off the herd of beef cattle he had purchased specifically to supply the kitchen. Without the restaurant to consume his organic waste, his sustainable farming model died, forcing him back to utilizing artificial chemical fertilizers. The council managed to destroy an eco-friendly diversification project in less than a month. It was a clinical execution of local enterprise. By January 2023, Clarkson was forced to write directly to the planning department just to de-escalate the situation. He stated clearly on the record that he had absolutely no desire to expand the business further or turn his home into a commercial theme park. He reminded them that Diddley Squat was his actual family residence. He just needed a safe place for people to park their cars. Every driver who has ever circled a block in pure frustration understands his plea. He was simply trying to prevent his own success from paralyzing the community outside his front gate. When the council refused to lift the enforcement notice on the restaurant, Clarkson launched a formal double appeal, tying it directly to a second refusal over his parking lot. It was the desperate move of a man who realized that total compliance meant financial ruin. The resulting appeal tribunal dragged on for 2 intense days in March 2023. The appointed planning inspector, a meticulous official named R.J. Perrins, conducted 2 separate, exhaustive physical inspections of the property. A multi-day government hearing was mobilized simply to judge a gravel lot. The final verdict split the farm down the middle. On the restaurant, Perrins ruled strictly against Clarkson, giving him just 6 weeks to tear down the dining infrastructure entirely. The inspector stated clinically that 6 weeks was more than enough time to restore the land to its original, vacant state. It was a cold decision delivered to an industry that is currently losing billions in subsidies while facing completely unpredictable climate patterns. But on the car park, the logic flipped entirely. Perrins looked at the actual highway data and granted the permission immediately. The inspector legalized the temporary parking area, approved the new access gates, and permitted a small calf shop right next to the lambing shed. Even a strict government adjudicator, ruling against the farm on its core business expansion, realized the parking lot was never a luxury. It was a vital public safety asset. That specific 3-year permission began ticking down in June 2023, meaning the clock expires definitively right now. Clarkson is not asking the district council for an expansion, a new building, or an aggressive change of use. He is asking them not to switch off a safety mechanism that is currently preventing traffic accidents. Yet, this is the third time he has been forced to beg for the exact same patch of dirt. Back in February 2023, before the inspector's ruling had even been signed, the farm had already been forced to submit an emergency bid for a temporary lot just to survive until 2025. Then the inspector granted a different timeline expiring in 2026. Now, facing the upcoming 2027 television broadcast, his team is back in the queue begging for an extension to 2030. That is 3 separate, incredibly expensive legal applications for the exact same coordinates of gravel. It is a striking portrait of systemic inefficiency. The local council managed to spend thousands of pounds of taxpayer money fighting a planning war, only to accidentally create the most powerful advertisement for direct-to-consumer British farming in television history. They created the very problem they claimed they wanted to solve. The council's public relations department has spent months attempting to rewrite the narrative. They issued public statements acknowledging that their planning process can look intensely obstructive to the average viewer. They insisted they treat Diddley Squat exactly like any other farm, claims designed to sound completely reasonable to the public. They even claimed they warmly welcomed local produce sales and left their door open for collaboration. But public relations statements mean nothing when the legal ledger shows an independent business being forced to litigate 3 separate times for an asset everyone agrees is mandatory. The local community remains completely fractured over the fallout. Certain residents publicly celebrated the restaurant's demise, claiming the farm shop was a plague on their quiet village. That anger is real, but it ignores the heavy support backing the development. Liam Walker, a rogue local county councillor, broke ranks entirely to back Clarkson's appeal on the record. Walker stated directly that modern agriculture has fundamentally changed, and planning laws must evolve rapidly to let farmers diversify their income. He argued that British producers deserve immediate, unyielding support rather than constant regulatory roadblocks. That is an elected representative looking at the exact same paperwork and reaching the same conclusion as the audience. The definitive turning point, however, does not belong to the district planners. It belongs to Oxfordshire County Council's Transport Division, the actual experts responsible for public highway safety. Their lead transit authority, Oliver Eden, intervened with zero hesitation to back the farm's request. Eden stated in writing that the gravel lot is an essential asset to absorb traffic that would otherwise cause immediate danger on the main road. The Highways Department went even further, explicitly ordering the planning committee to extend the permit to match the television filming schedule. The irony was absolute. An expert transport authority had to step in and explain basic road safety to the very gatekeepers who claim to protect the local environment. Clarkson's corporate team summarized the entire crisis perfectly in their final brief. They noted that the destination remains immensely popular, meaning the demand for parking is a permanent reality, not a temporary fad. They proved that when the Diddley Squat infrastructure functions correctly, the supply chains of dozens of neighboring traditional farms function right along with it. When this car park is blocked, an entire local agricultural network suffers the consequences. The 2030 extension application remains completely frozen on the desk of West Oxfordshire District Council, with no ruling date in sight. But the core evidence is absolute. The transit experts have said yes, the economic data is undeniable, and a 3-year real-world trial has proven the lot works perfectly. There is no logical argument left to deploy against it. If the council finally capitulates and grants the extension, it will not be a special favor handed to a television celebrity. It will be a compromised bureaucracy finally admitting what the rest of the country figured out years ago. Drop a comment below if you think the council is actively trying to shut Clarkson down, or if this is just standard British red tape running wild.